And now, our feature contemplation.
Speaking of Cinema with Andrew Schwartz.
Welcome to the Speaking Cinema podcast. Today we have a great guest, but first I would just like to say once again, thank you to everyone who has supported the podcast and followed us on Instagram and whatever other social media outlets you may have found Speaking Cinema with Andrew Schwartz on. Today we are boarding the bus and going to Ghost World. How'd I do with that? Was it pretty good?
Yeah, that was all right.
Just all right.
I'm just imagining haunted ghost music in the background. Ooh, wrong movie, but
wrong movie, and that's definitely something we'll talk about.
Yeah.
You know, but Ghost World by Terry Zwigoff from 2001. This little gem that I love so much, and I'd like to welcome to the studio, right here in person with me, filmmaker, writer, director Jesse Mendelsohn. Jesse, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
I love how he's doing a queen wave right now with his hand to the wall.
I think it's more the beauty pageant wave.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
A nice mixture. It's right in the middle.
Yeah, Mr. California.
Just what we needed. Mr. California with us, Jesse Mendelsohn. So we have a lot to talk about because this is just one hell of a fun, great, oddball little movie.
Yeah, when you suggested this, I was like, oh, we have to do this one.
Oh, good.
It was like instant when I saw it on the list.
Good. Oh, that's great to hear, man. Let's begin with a logline read.
Yeah, sure.
Which we like to do here from time to time. No, actually every time. So, so the log line is going to kind of just sort of sashay us right into the film. And here's our log line for Ghost World. We're back in 2000 or 2001, folks. Two eccentric best friends graduate high school and respond to a man's romance-seeking newspaper ad as a gag, only to find their lives become increasingly complicated. So, this logline, I think, Jesse, it's, again, pretty typical.
Yeah.
And it gets us right into the movie because I do like sometimes these adjectives here, right? Eccentric.
Right.
I think that's definitely...
yeah, that's accurate.
That's accurate.
I think it's one of those things where it's like it entirely works and yet doesn't cover the half of it.
Yeah.
You know? But also, it came at a time, I feel like, where people just would like, oh, there's a movie, I'll see it. So it's like, this is what the movie's about, and you don't need to hard sell them on the log line. It's just like, oh yeah, I could see a movie like that.
Yeah.
And that's all it needs to do.
Exactly. And in this case, the movie is quite simple, right? I mean, there's not much to it in terms of like plot-oriented narrative, right? Which I ended up, I think when the first time I saw this movie a long time ago, it had me scratching my head a bit. I was probably close to teenage age when I first saw it. And it sort of was a head scratcher. Like, why is there not more that happens? And now that I'm older, and as I've seen it a bunch of times, but as I've gotten older, I actually like more and more the fact that there is not that much that narratively happens. We can sort of hone in on these characters and why they are, and it puts more importance, I think, on the things that they do and that they do say in each moment in the movie.
Yeah,
right?
I found that by the time skipping ahead a bit, but by the time we get to some of the dates between Seymour and Dana, I believe.
Yeah, Dana.
Yeah, when Seymour and Dana start dating, I was like, oh my God, we're far in. We're deep into this movie. And it's all about Enid trying to get Seymour a date.
Yeah.
and you know.
Yeah, it's true. And it's fun because, you know, these log lines, sometimes you can kind of see how the movie is special just from the log line. To me, this movie is so special.
Yeah.
And so fun and so funny and unique. But the log line doesn't really tell us that. And yet, like you said, it does tell us what we need to know about what the movie is.
Right.
You can get that from this log line after having seen the movie, right? But at this point, when you're seeing that log line and you haven't seen it yet, you're thinking, all right, yeah, that's something that I could be interested in. I've kind of seen a million movies like that.
Yeah, exactly. But
Little
this
do
is
you
a
know.
special surprise.
Exactly. Little do you know, this is a movie that among all those other movies really stands out.
Yeah.
And has become iconic, especially in the sort of culty indie world.
Right.
And hence, which is why we're
Why we're talking
about
about
it.
this in 2024?
Exactly. Yeah. It almost makes me forget what year we're into. Yeah, it's very strange. So, all right, let's go right into our title takes, because I've been really looking forward to this one. Because I think for the last 2 episodes, we've had Smile, pretty straightforward, one word, and then we had Saltburn. That was a fun podcast, but again, the title, pretty simple. You know exactly what it is, oriented with the film.
Yeah, this one's just one compound word.
Right. And I think it's technically marketed as 2 words, but it
No,
basically
I meant
is a
Saltburn.
compound
I was talking
word.
about Saltburn.
Oh, Saltburn.
Yeah,
Yes.
Saltburn was a compound word.
True, right. But also a place.
Yeah, exactly.
A town.
A proper noun.
Yeah, this is a place. Maybe. Well, it's sort of, you can't really argue that it's not some kind of a place, right? It's a world. But there's a lot more interpretation, I feel, to this title. You know, everyone's always saying, like I just did even, I'm guilty of it. Oh, this movie's more simple, right? It doesn't have as many ins and outs, and yet you ask 6 different people what the meaning of the title or the movie is, you might get 6 different answers.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm curious. I've been curious what yours is going to be, because I have a very specific one that ties into what I feel about the film and what this is saying.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to hear what yours is.
Sure, then I'll go first, because
Okay.
then it sounds like you're going to go into your take, which is fine.
Yeah.
So I actually found it difficult to hone in on one specific thing. Oh, this is what this title means. This is what the movie is.
Right.
This is what we're talking about here, right? It's this thing. I find myself thinking about different aspects of the story and of the film, the different corners of it, the different things that we can get from it and relate to it. And every time I think of one of those different things, I kind of connect it back to the title, right? I play that game of sort of revisiting this overarching title, and I kind of orient my thoughts to the title based on the moment, right? Or based on what aspect of the movie I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So it's hard to hone in on one thing, and I'm sure we're going to get into all those different sorts of things and flavors that go back to the title, which I'm excited about. Right. But I would say, all in all, when I first think about this, and I sort of think about everything sort of amalgamated together, like we do like to think about it at the beginning of these podcasts, I would say that this ghost world is referring, for me, to this kind of limbo, this limbo region of our lives, this environment of our lives that exists between, I suppose you could say, childhood and adulthood, but in this case, probably more so between adolescence, which starts in childhood,
Right?
But some sort of a time between adolescence and adulthood, or adulty things, adulting.
Yeah.
For those who subscribe to that term.
Yes, exactly. And first of all, what I love is that it's totally different from my take. But jumping into your take, the thing I love is I remember that summer between high school and college. And even though they don't know what they're doing, if they're going to go to college or what they're going to, or if, I don't think they're planning to, but that summer is such a fertile period in my life that I could just see this. So that is such an interesting thing.
Yeah, me too, for sure. And yeah, you probably could, quite literally in the context of the film, but you can hone that idea down to just those few months.
Yeah.
Right, between graduating high school, and that's where this movie begins, which we'll talk about in a second.
Right.
And then making that transition into either college, which requires a lot of sort of personal responsibility that wasn't required, say, when you live back at home or whatever it is in high school. And it's just this sort of netherworld of, who's doing what? What's happening? Am I an adult now? Is this what this should feel like? What does this mean? I remember going to see because we've been growing up with Toy Story.
Right.
We're going to see Toy Story, what is it, 3?
Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3, which came out right as we were graduating. I think you're a year
Yeah.
younger, so the
Yeah,
summer
I'm a year
after
younger.
for you.
Yeah.
But
God, that movie wrecked me.
oh, me too.
I was like, this doesn't need to exist. And then when they're all holding hands, I'm like, I want more.
Exactly. And think about it. That's literally the summer that I went off to college, to Hofstra, which is where we both went.
Yes.
But yeah, that was quite a thing. So all of the feelings that were already there, and then on top of it, this movie that has been with me since childhood, about the imagination of childhood, and how that sort of relates and corresponds with more mature and adult-like things. Mm-hmm. It's just all supernovaed at the same time for me.
Yeah.
And you, because it was only the summer later. But
Right.
oh man, that was just that was a crazy convergence of a lot of different things. But that's basically my take on Ghost World. And some people just, they seem to disappear even in that summer.
Yeah.
Leading in. Some people don't go to college. They go off and they go to work. Or they take a gap year or whatever it is. They figure out what they need to do, which isn't so clear. And for the first time in your life, you're not caged in with these other people that are
Yeah.
supposed to be some sort of relevant and relative to you somehow.
Exactly.
And they just go off and they float away, right? That's kind of the word that I think of is float.
That's
away,
so true because
right?
and so many people float in and out of your life.
Yeah.
And it's not even planned. Like they probably didn't think they were going to spend all that time with Josh. They probably were so annoyed by him, and all of a sudden they spend half their time with him. Is it because he has a car?
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
But and then other people float in, Seymour and the guy who sells videotapes, who's a little racist or a lot racist.
Yeah.
But who floats in and out? Who do they see? Who do they never hear from again?
Right.
And I can tell you 3 people.
Yeah.
And it's those ladies from the beginning who are rapping about matriculation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's basically it. Like you said, they're in and they're out. You don't know what's happening. And to me, Ghost, and we will talk about this later, but there is source material here. This is a graphic novel, right? It's an adaptation, which I didn't read.
Neither did I.
Right.
Actually, I have it.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh.
I took a class at Hofstra. Actually, I have read it. I took a class on Hofstra about adaptation, and this is one of the books and films we looked at. And
No
so I have a
kidding.
copy somewhere.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to dust that thing
Yeah,
off and read
I'll look
through
for it.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, I don't know how much is different in the actual graphic novel.
I couldn't tell you. I have no memory.
Right, it was a while ago.
Yeah, it was.
But these people, some of them, I mean, the use of the word ghost here by Daniel Close in this title, it seems to be, at least in the film for sure, it means a lot of different types of things. It can mean ghosts of the past, for sure, right? Childhood, relics of the past, things that you took for granted and you're losing now and it's a strange sensation. All of that stuff. Ghosts of the present, right? People that you see around you that you don't understand because they just seem to be on the fringes somehow, right? Even if you think you're one of them, there's this divergence that happens with people after high school, and you can start to see people sort of fading away or fading into some other sort of meaning in their life, and they go pursue it, and you don't quite understand that because yours is totally different, and you don't have limited choices. They can go and fly on and be their own thing, and you just don't know what happens to them. You don't hear from people for the first time, and you also start witnessing people like these characters do in this movie, and you say, is that what I'm going to become? There's a lot of that in this movie. Is that what I'm supposed to do? Is that what it means to live a good life? This person seems really awesome. Is that what I should do?
Yeah.
So those seem like ghosts to me. And then there are also these that ties in with ghosts of the future. I just feel like there's a lot of introspection happening on the part of Enid, especially Enid in the movie. And she wonders a lot and is very curious about what's going to happen to her in the future. And she sees herself possibilities in other people, right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like that sort of ties in with this entire ghostly realm that is just life
And the regular world.
Yeah.
So that kind of, if you don't mind, brings me to my title take, which is, I think of Ghost World as our world from Enid's perspective. I think of traditional life. She everything she looks around her is about her future and what her path is and her fighting it. And everyone is a ghost to her. She's like the only person who's living her own life in a world of everyone following responsibilities and tradition and just walking around like shadows of themselves, like ghosts or ethereal, like projections. Just, it's like moving from day to day, not knowing why. And I think that's how she feels about the world.
right? Because there's something very unknowing about ghosts.
Yeah.
Right? In the traditional sense, I mean, there are so many different types of ghosts in so many different cultures.
Yeah, yeah.
But typically, sort of these Western understood ghosts, and even a lot of Eastern ones too, are, whether they're trapped in a loop or they're trying to reach out for help, they're very unaware of something,
Yes.
right? They're unaware even if they're alive or not. They're just kind of existing and floating around in some way.
Exactly.
And they're still, there's something unresolved, right? They're looking for some sort of purpose. They're looking for human connection. They're looking for things that do give us life in the real world. Mm-hmm. But I do think that take is completely valid. I mean, that seems like what Enid is doing.
Yeah, she's introspective and retrospective in a way that she doesn't think other people are. And this is, I think, kind of her main flaw as a character, is that she is not understanding of where other people come from. And so she's judging the world around her. So the whole world's a ghost and she's the only real person to her. Even Becca, her friend, played by Scarlett Johansson, is just not, she's fighting, Becca is fighting between those two worlds.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what Enid resents about her. So she can't even relate to anyone.
Right.
And so she finds little bits of what she's looking for in different people.
Yeah.
In Josh and Becca and Seymour.
Yeah.
Even her dad.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is this, because she is absolutely like very deliberative and introspective, Enid. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she almost doesn't know that she is.
Yeah, she can be
right?
so obtuse and so clumsy.
So, yeah, exactly. Scattered, just she's trying to harness what her life even could be. Mm-hmm. Even the possibilities seem very distant and vague and nebulous to her, right? Because she kind of lives vicariously through other people, and we'll talk about that as we approach that opening image soon. But I do find it very fascinating how that part of Enid, the being introspective but not quite knowing how to externalize that, which is also ties into the art teacher and what she's trying to assist her in doing. But I feel like that is sort of that's like a great delineation of what it is to be a teenager anyway, isn't it? In adolescent, I mean, we're trying to, for the first time, we can think more introspectively, right? Like, for example, we can create art that has this higher meaning. As
this one is higher category that we've been speaking about.
Exactly. High art. Beautifully gnarled clothes hangers that have a purpose, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that art teacher, this is what she's trying to say. She's trying to nurture these kids into diving a little deeper and exploring what that more introspective and interesting meaning is in life. And that is, in a sense, what it is to become a teenager, to come of age, to understand all of the realities of the world, however ugly and however stupid and vacuous and all the other insane words that Enid and Becky use together. But regardless of that, to make some sort of meaning out of it.
Yeah.
Right? To externalize that.
And And I find that she never gets there.
Yeah.
She just, well, we'll get, I don't know if we're talking endings, but.
Yeah, we'll definitely wait on that.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think she never achieves what she's looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Ghost World.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it stays true from the first frame to the end. And we will talk about this more with the final image in that closing sequence, but there are some characters that don't resolve. But I think she will one day. Right?
I think she's set up to, but I actually want to amend that. I wonder if any of the characters resolve. Because we're getting there now, but
yeah.
I was surprised that scene with Seymour and the therapist is really the second to last moment.
Right.
It's really right there at the end.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah.
More to come, listeners.
More to come.
On the next 60 minutes of Speaking Cinema. Okay, so Jesse, let's talk about this opening of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll just run us through very quickly kind of a little summary of what happens here. And then I want to get your first word on your take of what you take away from this. So our first image and sound is Jean Pai Chan Ho. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Which is, it plays from a Bollywood suspense thriller. This is the song that we hear at the beginning from Gumnam, 1965. And the very prolific Mohammed Rafi is singing. And it's this very dancey kind of number, very Fosse on steroids. And then we open with this wide shot from the actual movie that we're hearing this music from. So we're not even in the diegesis yet, right? We're sort of in this other movie, so to speak. And it's a wide shot with all of these dancers, and we have this leading lady who's dressed in gold, and these other male dancers that are dressed in sort of like suits that are around her and supporting her. And she starts dancing like crazy, and she's clearly she's the main attraction. Then, in the second shot, we have this medium that shows her again, and she's being even more wild and free and having fun. She's in her element, this leading lady in this movie. And then the third shot is when we start this wide establishing shot of the exterior, the outside of Enid's apartment complex, right? And then we slowly dolly in. And then Zwigoff has us sort of cross-cutting between this dolly shot that's going from window to window in the apartment complex, and as well as the scene from that movie sort of playing out for us, along with the music. And we go through these different windows, and the final window, which is the fifth one, is our leading lady, Enid. And she's dancing around her television set, just like the leading lady in the movie is. And then, right after that, we cut to this graduation scene. So, walk us through what you thought of this opening image and why it means something for the movie, Jesse.
Okay, so I was captivated on the third or fourth shot on this sort of moonlit apartment complex where there's so much depth in this moment. It's a power line and two walls on the outside of a building, and I was hooked. It just showed the contrast between this idealized, fun, vibrant world and the world that Enid is destined to live in. And we pan or we slide across from apartment to apartment, seeing people watching TV. And it doesn't matter that she's watching something different from them. There's contrast there, but that's not the key. The key is this is their life and this will be their life. That's the implication, I think, of these houses we see. And when we get to Enid, she is not satisfied. She is vibrating. She is electric, and she is ready to go. And that's why when we go straight to graduation, it's this moment of freedom, and then that comes crumbling down in the very next scene, which I love, which is so key, which is so like fun that you're free. No, you're not. You got summer school. But I just love the contrast of this like cream-colored wall and this vibrant dance sequence.
Yeah, for sure. And if you think about it, she's still in high school for that opening shot.
Yes.
Right? And that's the only shot that she's in high school for, because the next shot is her graduation. So if we think about it in terms of contrasts, this opening sequence is the last moment, the last night of her, let's say, traditional adolescence.
Yeah.
Right? Of her childhood, if you want to use that word. The next moment is the beginning of the rest of her life.
Right.
Right. And the beginning of her conflicts that we start to find that she has to endure in the movie. So I thought that was brilliant. I would just love to go through. I'm so giddy right now because I love this whole movie. It's phenomenal, I think. But this opening image is great.
And not to mention that she's wearing the iconic red graduation gown as she's dancing. She is so excited. She is ready to graduate.
Yes, exactly. And I noticed that too. So I would love to go. Let's go window to window here.
Okay. I don't want to peek in these people's lives, but it's their business.
We're voyeurs, Jesse. This is what we do.
Yes, cinema is for creepy people.
It truly is. But we can hide behind that screen. We don't have to be like Seymour.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, what?
All right, fine.
We'll get there later.
That's debatable.
Yeah.
So as we're going through this amazing tracking shot outside of the apartment complex, we see other rooms in the same complex before we get to Enid. The first window reveals this Asian woman sitting, smoking a cigarette. She hasn't even tapped out the cigarette. There's like a huge line of like burnt ashes at the end of the cigarette. I find every single frame of this movie funny, so I might be laughing a lot. God. As she's smoking the cigarette, not putting it out, and just staring aimlessly out of the window. At night, nothing to see.
Yeah.
It's just an alley. And she's just staring out, almost as if to think, what the hell have I made of my life? Nothing. I'm a nothing. I can't do anything except smoke the cigarette. And I'm dreading work tomorrow. You know, it's great. All the departments coming together to just make these little windows, these little like little theatrical moments, kind of like Rear Window.
Yeah, like what's the word?
Frames within frames.
Yeah, no, I'll think of the word later.
Okay,
it'll be in a totally inappropriate time.
Vignettes.
Yes, but yeah, okay, it is vignettes.
Oh, okay. Good. I saved the inappropriate moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I'll find another.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I have faith in you. Okay, so number 2, we come to the second window. There's a shirtless, kind of bigger man sitting at the table. Like a dining room table. Well, it's not a dining room. It's like a little tiny like hallway table. Picking food out of his teeth, or like with a toothpick, or doing something like with his teeth.
Right.
And again, just mundanity.
Yeah.
You know, he's just hanging out. He's out of shape. He's picking food out of his teeth because he's got nothing better to do. It rhymes with the first one, and yet it's different. Third window. The third window is just an empty dining room, but there's dirty food on one plate on the right side of that table, I noticed, and like 2 candles or whatever on that one side of the table. So there's only one person that lives there.
Just the detail.
Right, exactly. This is the second decoration here, and there's a bottle of whiskey or some sort of liquor on the table next to next to the plate. And there's also there's an exercise machine, like a one-person bicycle machine next to the living room table. So, which is not very common.
No,
and it's just all squeezed together.
Room,
yeah, it's normally in another room, or it's like, probably if there was someone there with them, they would tell them, why is there a damn exercise machine in the living room? I need someplace to sit, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, that's where they sit to watch TV, on the exercise bike,
I suppose, while munching on their, Cheetos
and whiskey.
Yeah, it's just all right. It's just all lonely imagery,
of course,
and probably no roommates or anything. But anyway, fourth window now.
I think this is my favorite.
Oh, yeah. It's probably mine, too. This is probably the first time I remember laughing out loud, even the first time that I saw the movie, is this fourth window, where we see these two kind of large, rotund individuals sitting on a couch, bored out of their minds, lifeless faces, watching television. But like you said, even if it's the same thing that Enid is watching, they're just getting absolutely no joie de vivre out of it at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like dead looks in their faces. And of course, there's a little boy that's just pouncing with I think it's a bat, like a baseball bat. Just he's pouncing on a toy drum. Yeah. And they're just not batting an eyelash. They're just so jaded and they're just so sick of their lives or something. This kid is making a whole ruckus and they're just
it's just this is
noodles.
happening and not much we can do about it.
Yeah. They're just wet noodles.
Yeah.
Like, this is our lives now.
Yeah.
Like it or not.
We're noodle people now.
Yeah. But that is the first of many images that in this movie that has a child being a kid and enjoying it. And the adults are just melting away. Their humanities are just melting away while the kid is having fun next to them. A couple others that I saw.
Yeah.
Absolutely a riot. And just contribute so much to the whole feel. And then, of course, we find our Enid. Our Enid Coleslaw.
That can't be her last name.
So in it's not addressed in the movie, but in the graphic novel, her name is Enid Coleslaw, and the reason for that is it's an anagram of Daniel Close, the name of the author of the graphic novel. A little pseudo-biography? Who knows? Maybe. It's a little bit of a hint. So we see Aunt Enid dancing around the TV set, and I think it's really important here to note she looks like the lead lady in the movie, the hair at least.
Yeah.
You know, she changes her hair a lot based on other people and what she's into at the time.
Right.
So her hair is kind of like, it's shorter, but it's black. Yeah. You know, we notice she changes the color later.
It's that straight.
Right.
Yeah.
60s kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And in fact, when he cuts to her doing that Frankenstein-y thing.
She does it too.
It's the same exact thing. Like you almost don't know who it is at first. Like, oh wait, no, that's not. She's not wearing gold. That's Enid.
Yeah.
You know, and they cut it so tightly you can barely even, discern. And just like you noticed, she's wearing that. Everyone else in the other windows, drab colors, right? Like you said, cream-colored walls, drab walls, gray, boring. They're not wearing anything. She's wearing this vibrant red graduation gown.
It's almost it can't be, but it's almost silk-like.
Yeah, and it just contrasts with everything else.
Yeah,
and you almost think I actually remember thinking that is she wearing a ball gown there? Like, what is she wearing to try and mimic this person that she's seeing on the TV? And I didn't realize what it was. I thought it was a bathrobe, maybe. Yeah. And then I didn't realize until that next sequence that, okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
She's ready to go.
Yep.
She's
and then
done with school.
Kersplat, and then it's just the entire tone totally changes. So I loved that. I think it sets up everything that it needs to set up for us.
And yet it doesn't tell us what's going to happen.
Yes. Right. It's more like it creates the atmosphere.
It sets up tone, yeah.
It sets up tone. It tells us the world of the movie in one shot from the perspective of the character. But like you said, it sets that up, but it doesn't tell us what he's going to be doing with the world, right? Or what Enid is going to be doing.
Right.
In fact, it misguides us in that respect.
Yeah.
Right? It tells us that she's really excited about something. And then the rest of the entire movie, she's bloody miserable.
Yeah, she shows more enjoyment and excitement in that one scene than probably the rest of the movie combined.
Right. Last moment of the childhood.
Yeah.
Right? Reality comes crashing down and she don't like it.
Yeah.
And who can't, in some way, at some point in their lives, relate to that?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So, and then, that next moment is the graduation scene. And the couple little things that I noted were we cut to this, I forget the name of the character, but this character who's in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And, she's had a really stroke of really bad luck where she was in a car crash or something. And
I don't know if bad luck's...
oh yeah, well that's true. Maybe she brought it on herself or something. I think
I
that's,
wouldn't blame like that, but...
Yeah.
But,
well, she was probably driving drunk or something like that.
That's the implication.
Yeah, that's the implication.
Or someone was.
Right, and that's probably why Enid is so... she's so stark and horrible about it.
Yeah.
But I love, Jesse, this script in general.
Yeah.
I love how it's written. It gives us everything that we need, plus an added bonus of a wry, clever, satirical cherry on top.
Yeah, and you know me, I love rye satirical cherries.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's probably why we chose this one.
Yeah. I mean, just everything about Enid is so fun and so delightfully stark.
Yeah.
and Becca's just trying to keep up. Becca's just like, yeah, I'm totally like this too. I love this. And
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't.
Right.
It's fun, but it's not her.
And we get that in this graduation scene.
Yeah, especially the party after. But
yes, especially the party after. But I know we're honing in on stuff, but I love that speech that the valedictorian in the wheelchair gives.
Yeah.
It's just purely, these platitudes and these cliches.
And it's not her speaking. It's this monotone that's prescribed by graduation speeches she's heard.
Right.
The training wheels of life. No,
right.
that was too lifelike.
Right. Exactly. I just love that contrast that Zwigoff draws up for us here. Mm-hmm. Keyword draws up. There are a lot of comic book kind of things in this.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that too. But yeah, the leading lady in that Bollywood movie is just on fire, and she's the main focus of the frame, and she's just, you can't rip your eyes away from how electric and colorful and kinetic that is.
Kinetic's
right?
a good word.
Yeah, and then bam, we basically crash cut
to the most boring graduation speech,
to a wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
Boring. In fact, there's a really awkward pause, if you noticed, before she even starts her speech.
Yeah.
It's like, we see this character, we see the people in the background, and then he cuts to the people in the audience, and then he cuts back to the valedictorian, and then he cuts from behind the valedictorian, and then she speaks. There's like a really awkward pause.
Yeah.
And it's just that it's that dreary of a contrast to real life from the movie that he has to give us that ridiculous awkward pause.
And it's funny, so it keeps the energy moving. It keeps us engaged, so we just don't lose all interest after this exciting opening.
Right. The point is that it's an awkward pause, but it's placed ever so craftily.
Yeah.
So that we know what he's saying. And then when the thing needs to go, the gears get going right then and there.
Yeah.
Right? It's such a deliberately well-placed little Jenga block in there. Right?
It's a breather, but it's funny.
Yes. And it's so hard to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like every single breather in this movie is funny. And I'm hard on comedy. I want to laugh. I need it to make sense. I want it to be clever. Right? I want it to teach me something at the same time. I want to be see a great performance. I want to learn about these characters. I'm tough on comedy, but every moment in this movie has me doubled over.
Yeah.
I can't even describe.
I just to me, the moment that just broke me emotionally, and I was laughing so hard was when Enid sort of breaks up with Becca and they just have their big fight, and Enid's crying on her bed, and she has no idea if she hates Becca or hates herself more.
Right.
And she's just totally, and it's so sad. And the dad comes in and goes, he's like, "Are you upset?" And she goes, "It's hormones." He's like, "Okay, must be hormones." And then he's like, well, I'm moving in with Maxine, that girl that broke my heart a couple years ago. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's just like, well, we're going steady, so we move in. That's what happens. And that to me is that ghost world. You know, that world where he doesn't even like her that much. He's not excited. Bob Balaban. He's just like, well, we've been going steady, and hopefully those hormones slow down soon.
Yes. And yet, we're going to transition now into scenic view.
Yeah.
Which is talking about specific scenes and our views on them and all this, how it ties in and everything. I just have to comment first about how we sort of already touched on it, but it's a consistency thing here, right? With Zwigoff's brush, he touches everything in the movie and magically turns it into this just dreary, banal wasteland of a world. And one way he does it with images specifically and moments like that awkward pause and so on, all throughout the film very consistently. But the characters themselves, we were talking about Enid's father. Mm-hmm. The characters have this way of of communicating to us in their own funny, sort of satirical way, that they're trying to just live just like Enid is, but they sort of have just locked themselves into a place of complacency, right? A place of just whether they're content or not, just accepting what the world is, this jaded, perhaps even cynicism, and they have this dreariness to them, but they're all similarly painted that way. And I feel like it takes a really skilled filmmaker to do that. I feel like Wes Anderson does that in his films, even though sometimes for me it becomes a little bit... It's
a little too saccharine.
Exactly.
The balance is a little off sometimes.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not as engaging in some scenes as other scenes. Mm-hmm. And you don't quite feel the meaning. It's just sort of like an exercise in, where can I bring the style here with this moment?
It does get in the way, but here it feels like every moment is Enid rationalizing her point of view.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Every moment has Enid's perspective trademark, in a sense, on it. And like this moment, there's a great moment where the father's ex-lover, what's her name again? I don't even remember.
Maxine.
Oh, we got to do Being John Malkovich too.
Oh yeah.
Maxine comes in and he's part of her life. and I apologize for my language ahead of time, but I'm just quoting. If you remember, Enid walks in and they're in the kitchen and the father says, "Oh, you remember Maxine? He's trying to get something out of the fridge." The father, in order to avoid witnessing firsthand the interaction between the two other characters, because he knows that it's going to not go down well.
Yeah.
Right? He's sort of hiding behind the fridge door. And the mother says something very...
Or not the mother, Maxine.
I'm sorry, Maxine, you're right.
She's not her mom. That's the whole thing.
You're right. It's not the mom. But Maxine says something to Enid, like, in a very cheeky way, like, "Oh, I can't help but feel like I had a hand in your upbringing. You're such a woman now. I'd love to know what you're doing." You know, it's just very matter of fact. It's very adult for the sake of being adult, saying the thing that needs to be said to get past the moment and move on to the next, the next car accident of life. And then Enid desperately wants to get away, but she can't. And then she turns to Maxine. And because Maxine specifically says, "I can't help but feel like I had a hand in who you are now," Enid gets back in her and says, "Oh, I'm taking a remedial art class for fuck-ups and retards. Good night."
Yeah. I mean... The thing is, like, I totally feel for Enid in that moment because, like, Maxine is this woman who, like, truly hurt her in the past, it seems.
Yeah.
Because we can tell that when Bob Balaban and Enid are discussing, Bob Balaban earlier says, like, "Oh, guess who I ran into the store? Maxine, that woman who broke my heart and hurt you." and Enid is just livid because she knows what's going to happen. She knows that there's no reason he would mention it if they weren't continuing a conversation.
Right.
And the idea that Maxine is saying, "Hey, I'm kind of like your mom," right, is just a knife to the heart.
Right.
For Enid. And it's just like all she can do is just snap back.
Right. Yeah. But that's what makes, I think, these moments so, you can feel them so palpably, is because they are so funny. But like I said, that's that cherry on top.
Yeah.
It all works. These gears that are spinning that make these scenes work are very grounded in a very real, true, honest sense of the drama of what it's like to be a teenager.
And the comedy is the cherry.
Yes. Yeah. It's a nice little frosting on top or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's where a lot of other comedies kind of go wrong.
Yeah, they put the comedy first.
They put the comedy first, and you don't feel that movie happening. Yeah. You just feel a sort of merry-go-round ride that you're on, and then you get off, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not high art, so to speak.
It's not that higher level, like Father. What's the rest of that video she made?
Father, memory, Father, or something like that. Yeah. Oh Father God. Something.
I like to show that to all my students because I want to show you I can do it too.
Right. And then if you remember, there's some sort of like daddy issues that are just like that are like just completely burned into her because do you remember? And we're going to talk about the series of art classes because those are some of my favorite scenes.
Oh my God!
But there's that one art class where she's trying to interpret their work, their first set of work that they turn in.
Oh, and she goes, "Oh, I thought it was you killing your father." And he's like, "No."
Right.
He's like, "It was something else." She goes, "Oh, it just something about it."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What I would like to touch on here, because we were just mentioning sort of other comedies,
right?
And why this is different. I found something very kind of curious here. I don't know if you caught this, but at the beginning of the movie, and this is also a good time to go into sort of like sexuality and sex-oriented things in the movie.
Yeah.
Because at the very beginning of the movie, I think they're walking around a corner. It's not too long after the graduation. Enid and he's smiling and nodding.
When they're going to get drinks at the graduation.
Well, actually, it's right after that. It's after that pickup. They're on the street walking next to each other, and Enid says something, or Becky says something, and then Enid something about virgins or something. Oh, they're talking about what those people Satanists do.
Yeah.
From the diner. What do Satanists do? And then Enid says something like, they just kind of like, sacrifice virgins or something.
And they're both like, well, we're safe.
Exactly. So that moment when she says, we're both safe, that was really interesting to me. Because if you think about it, I mean, American Pie was this first sort of like very sexed up teen comedy. And that was 99. So that was really this was 01. So a couple of years after that, this is right at the beginning of all of those.
Right.
But it's almost like an answer to American Pie, right? American Pie.
Yeah.
And then all of these other crappy teen comedies that don't mean much that come out are about the kids losing the virginity, right? It's about the teenagers trying to get some, trying to experience that part of life. And that's the whole plot of the movie. Here, whether he did it intentionally or not, Zwigoff and Close, who both co-wrote the script together, they give us right at the beginning of the movie, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Or if they're not lying, they might be lying. And we can get into that. But they just don't even address that. It's just not even what this movie is remotely about.
It's like the difference between like, oh my God, I gotta lose my virginity to the hottest girl in school or else my life is over.
Right.
It's like this thing about like you have to like win.
Right.
And like succeed and be the best at something and like prove something. And for them it's just like, no, we had sex.
Yeah. Yeah. What's next?
Yeah.
What are we doing now? You want to go to that?
Yeah.
You want to go to the dirty dirty
video store now that
things
we're
store.
18. Oh, but I wanted to go with you. Sorry, I went with Seymour.
It's just so absurd. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm practically crying.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stop thinking about this movie, especially because I already have immediate props for a movie that makes me relive in an authentic way what it was like to be a teenager, because that time was so emotional. It was so formative, bumpy, confusing, but so much of what I am now at the age of 32 is made up of that stuff that happened. The way I view things, the way I feel things, how I compare experiences that I have to the experiences of others and to the experiences that I had long ago. That's the time, right? That's the time that all that formative stuff happened, that I draw from and I think about and I compare to, because it really is the beginning of something, right? And that something, I think, is different for everyone. Yeah. But it is there, whatever it is. And we'll get into that too, I'm sure.
And I feel like it goes back to that summer after college feeling where what do you do with your day? How do you spend your time? And that's the first time your choices are instinctive and they're not based on what you said you were going to do to your parents. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to take this class. I'm going to do my chores. It's when you have the time to do anything, what do you just do without thinking?
Right.
And that's like the first time you get to know yourself.
Right. And I think that's Enid's whole predicament.
Yeah.
Right? She, while her best friend seems to be getting some stuff done, right? She's lining things up. She's thinking about school. Oh, okay, maybe not. Enid, you take the lead on that one. Then she's thinking about the apartment. Then she's getting a job so she can get that apartment, right? The dominoes are falling for her. Enid doesn't even seem to be able to know how to put one foot in front of the other with her time, right? In that sense, she is the ghost. Yeah, because she is floating around and not really affecting anything around her. She just comments about things around her, right?
She's not living it.
She's not living it. She's not a force in this world at all. She's just words. She's criticisms. She's nonverbal stuff also. Yeah. So she floats around and touches things, but doesn't really affect them.
No. Even, I mean, we haven't talked about, Seymour that much, and he's, Steve Buscemi's a massive part of this, but she pushes him in ways, and he doesn't really move. He isn't affected by it too much.
Right. And let's get into that. So let's talk about this. I would say it's sort of an inciting, not necessarily an incident. It's an inciting epiphany that the character Enid has, that she wants to play this prank. And of course, Becky, it's the beginning of the movie, so Becky is in on it too, because she hasn't quite matured out of that yet.
Right.
They're still very much high school kids, but they want to play this prank on some unknowing fella.
He's so sad.
Yeah. But that's what Enid loves about him.
Well, yeah.
And we have to talk about why, which I'm very excited to talk about. But what do you think about this, Jesse? Why does Enid... I just said she doesn't know how to put one foot in front of the other. And now I'm eating those words. Because she does initiate this prank that they're going to play on some unknowing dude. Enters Steve Buscemi as Seymour. But she really does take the reins there. So she is running this operation. Okay? So I'm just wondering, what do you think that says about just Enid at the beginning of the script? And as she gets to know Seymour and that relationship starts to bear something that she didn't expect, what is your take on how that changes Enid as a character from the moment that she gets the idea to where we see the story moving toward the end?
Yeah, she escalates from following Satanists to pranking people, and she thinks this is adulthood, doing whatever you want. She starts out following people, drawing people, and then she pulls a prank because she can. Because there's no one to tell her, no, that's stupid. No, that's a bad idea. No, that's mean. Because she's kind of in charge of their little group.
Yeah. Just to push back on that, though.
Yeah.
There is Josh. Josh does say, hey, this is a fucked up thing to do to someone.
Yeah, but he does say it, but that's not why he's saying it.
Okay.
I think he doesn't want to be a part of it because these two beautiful women are dragging him around all around town saying, Josh, can you, he really feels that pull of, oh my God, these girls. And yet he's almost emasculated by them. And it's not like the worst thing that ever happened, but like, I definitely feel like part of his judgment and why he goes along with it is all about that relationship with them. Yeah. And Enid knows that he's not going to push back fully. He'll say it, but he won't stop them.
Right. Yeah, and that brings me to that specific scene in the diner, which, again, there's so much exposition still happening here.
Yeah.
Where there's that, the beginning of this scene is, I might be confusing it with another scene, but I don't think so, where Rebecca is playing with salt on the table, sort of making shapes out of it, right? And they're saying that, this is the Taj Mahal of fake 50s diners and criticizing it and everything.
And there's what's the guy's name? Like Weird Al.
Weird Al.
Yeah,
Alan,
Weird Al.
yeah. Yeah, so they're ragging on him, and also Enid is she's folding a napkin and making it look like it's a 50s diner hat.
Right.
So between that and just Rebecca playing with the salt on the table, they still are acting like children.
Yeah.
Right? And this was right after them coming from like around the corner talking about how they all already lost their virginity.
Yeah.
Right? So again, there's this limbo between the adolescence and the adulthood. They're still sort of children doing these childy things. They don't have jobs. They don't have things to fill the time with, which goes into why I think they were doing this in the first place. It's just filling that time, like you said, that we otherwise don't know how to fill in that summer, that strange transitional summer that's so consequential for all of us. And then, of course, we see Seymour for the first time. And Josh is there, and he's saying, he's just rolling his eyes. Also, just this dreary malaise to him, like every other character that's not Enid, basically.
Yeah.
Or the woman dancing in the movie at the beginning of the film. And you get what the dynamics are here. Josh, I think, is what Rebecca is going to become. And we get the sense that, isn't it implied that she likes Josh? Rebecca.
Yeah,
Becky.
for sure. I don't know if it's... Yeah, I could say that. I think she doesn't even know it.
Yeah, there are some reaction shots in there, though, like in the store, the convenience store, where
it's almost like
she's looking at him,
that's
Rebecca.
True. It's almost like Enid's bullying her into not liking him.
Yeah.
It's like Enid's like, oh, he's awful. And she's like, yeah, he's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also get the sense that she doesn't just like him, physically or sexually. She also admires him. He's sort of like the evolved form of her. Yeah. She's Rebecca 2.0 with the job, doing the things she needs to do.
She gets a very similar job.
Exactly. She gets a clerk job or a barista, whatever it is. Yeah. And she realizes, like, oh, this guy goes to work. He probably lives away from, he probably not lives away, but he probably doesn't spend as much time with his parents as he used to. These kids watch each other grow up.
Right.
Right? When you're in high school together. You look and you say,
there's a connection even if you don't like people.
Right. And you can see the evolution of the people around you.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful thing, right? That's, in a sense, it's sort of like a peer pressure without someone actually pressuring you. It's
just natural.
Yeah.
It's just in the air.
It's in the air. And it's the time is inevitable and change is the only constant, just law of existence,
Right.
that is bringing those sort of epiphanies to these characters. So I think I see Rebecca wanting to become more like Josh. So she's either attracted to him or she's impressed with him. She sees that next stage and she's ready to sort of kind of take the leap to get there. But Enid isn't. And then they start to fracture from that point on. Yeah. Right? So I thought that was kind of interesting how that, just seeing that all of their different reactions to Seymour.
Yeah.
Right? What are their different reactions that stuck out to you?
I mean, Enid's looking with puppy dog eyes.
Yeah.
Which we'll find out more about. And then Rebecca makes fun of him and just says, what does she say? She says, like, he should kill himself. Like,
yes.
Like, but she's always saying, but the thing is, she's saying statements like that. She's just saying the most, like, oh, we should fuck him, to the, like, should we fuck this guy, Like, that's a quote from her.
Right. Yeah. And she even says she wants to make love to Weird Al.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. That's, yeah.
Right. And I actually thought that little moment was an interesting, not maybe a power dynamic, but let's acknowledge our different places in our maturity, our maturation curve here, right?
Yeah, like she's Scarlett Johansson, it's like almost
right. And because if you remember, Enid wants to tell Al that she said that, and she's really embarrassed. Right? So that's what I mean. It's not necessarily a power dynamic. It could be a sort of Enid looking for control to keep
it's
Becky
a power
there.
dynamic for Enid because she's like, because there are points where she's jealous of Becca. So she's sort of like putting her back, like, hey, like, we know how this goes, and trying to fit things back where they were.
Right. Is it Becca or Becky? I can't remember.
I thought it was Becca.
Okay, it's probably Becca. Yeah,
let's you call her Becky and I call her Becca, and then every so often we'll sprinkle in a Rebecca. Yeah, and then we'll be fine.
And anyone that didn't hear what we just said now and skipped through the podcast, they're just gonna absolutely be driven crazy.
Yeah.
No, but I think it is Becca. I think it is Becca. So
okay,
I'll be respectful and call her Becca.
Then I have to call her Becky now.
That's right. We'll switch.
Yeah.
So, because we're unappeasable teenagers, that's why we have to status quo is bad. So, in the mean-spiritedness of Enid and Becca at the beginning of the movie, mostly, at least Becca, and then she changes a bit. I just want to remind all of our listeners and you, Jesse, because I have to. These are just some of the words that they use in the film when talking about other people, of course, not the two of themselves. Pathetic, depressing, retarded, Satanist, stupid redneck hick, fucking monster, fuckface, stupid, creep, asshole, lazy, loser, weirdo, fuck up, biggest idiot of all time, dork, extroverted, obnoxious, pseudo-bohemian loser, complete idiot, and repulsive. So I just wanted to relive those for a second there.
I'm wafting in the glory of their creativity, especially with what was it?
Where is it? Extroverted, obnoxious, pseudo-bohemian loser.
Yeah, just.
And she's talking about the band.
No,
dude.
Yeah. Because he didn't like the kind of music. Yeah, it's just real mature.
But I remember thinking that way.
Oh yeah,
and sometimes I still do.
Oh,
I just don't say it out loud.
I'm super judgmental.
Yeah, I think we all are. But there's a difference between just being internally judgmental
and just being like rude.
Right, and being rude, but we can also be rude too. But what I was going to say was,
but like, there's no reason to like. He didn't do anything close to deserve that.
Exactly, and that's why I think there's a difference between that, which is that's just you can't convict someone of thought crime, right? We all think these thoughts about other people, and that's just part of humanity. But there's a difference when it's replacing something that is a missing component, right? it's filler. It's filling in for Enid what she truly wants and what she truly craves.
What does she want?
What does she want? I believe she wants, as much as she knows it or not, I think that she wants something to be passionate about. She wants something to be excited about. And she's mainly jealous of those who are passionate about something or excited about something, no matter how small it is.
She tries to stomp it out.
Yes. No matter how niche it is, she needs to stomp on it the way that she stomped on her graduation cap at the beginning of the film and gave the middle finger to the school.
Yeah. But but here's the thing. There's something she doesn't try to stamp out.
Okay, what is that?
Something that you just go, that even Becca's like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. And that's at the garage sale with Seymour in the music.
Yes.
She doesn't care, and yet she's willing to listen. She's like, oh my God, you like X? And he's like, that's so interesting. You know?
Yeah. And
which one's good? Is this good? He's like, no. And she's like, what?
Yes, let's talk about this garage sale scene.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of next in the order of the movie. She goes to follow up on Seymour, and Becca is just repulsed the whole time by everything. Remember, she sees the mongoose and the snake fighting on the log or whatever.
She's like, can I have that? And he's like, no.
And of course, I think Enid says, "Can I have that?" Right?
Oh, maybe.
Or someone does. But the thing is,
it's not for sale.
It's not for sale. But Becca is repulsed, right? Becca says something like, "That's disgusting," right?
Yeah.
She said it. That's the first thing
I think she says, "That's disgusting." How much?
Oh, does she?
Maybe.
Oh, I can't remember. I think she just
Who
said
knows?
that.
There's no way for us to find out.
Yeah, and then Joe, the roommate.
Yeah.
Love this guy. But he actually, you're right. He did tell her, "Oh, you know what? I think I got to hang on to that mongoose for a little."
This one's important to me.
That's the most important mongoose fighting a snake on a log that I own. Not quite ready to let go of that yet. But that is mirrored later on by Enid at her garage sale. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
She can't let anything go.
Yeah.
What a great connection.
Yeah.
What a great foreshadowing. I mean, perfectly placed. I loved that.
I thought she was Seymour all along, and yet she was the roommate.
Yes. And there's something, exactly. And there's something that you're absolutely right, Jesse. She sees something in this type of person. Not even just Seymour, but Seymour is sort of the romanticized lol version of that. If there is such a thing. But there is in this movie. And he's sort of like the romantic distillation of that. For her, particularly. But there's something about these people that does excite her. And again, I think it's because she sees them as beneath her. Right? And we haven't even talked about Melvin yet. The guy at the bench. We will in a second. Right? That's another scene coming up. But she sees these people as beneath her. I think that comforts her. Did you get that sense?
Yeah, that it's like I'm keeping you at a distance because I'm above you.
Yeah.
And the only way to keep that is by keep stomping out all your joy.
Right. Whether she realizes she's doing it or not.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like with Seymour, she forgives so much.
Yeah.
You know, jumping ahead a bit when they're walking and she's talking about, you know, why don't you have a girlfriend? What about her? What about her? What about her? And he says the most like, oh, she wouldn't like a guy like me, you know? And normally she would just pounce.
Right.
And she would see vulnerability and just leap and destroy.
Right.
And here she doesn't.
Right. She has... There was a quote in the cafe or something when she visits Becca at work one day. Becca says, "Oh, I'm just so sick of these losers and weirdos." Remember? And Enid says something like, "But those are our people." Right? Which is funny, but then Becca doesn't laugh. She just kind of like, she doesn't quite roll her eyes, but she doesn't quite know what to say. Right. It's as if she's telling us, and Enid,
She's not.
Not my people. Maybe speak for yourself there. E.
Yeah.
Not quite. So, and that's very important here. But I do think it's because there's something stunted about these people that she admires. These quote-unquote losers and weirdos. And typically she just likes to criticize people in general, right? Because I feel like, especially now that I've been living for a little bit of time now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but people that have to constantly criticize other people generally have pretty low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is pretty gaping obvious rule of life at this point, right?
Yeah, everyone learns this.
Yes. So it's an insecurity, and there is something stunted about these people, right? And I think
I don't know that they're stunted. I think they're
age
appropriate. I think they're 18. Yeah. I think they're young.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant the people that collect the records and
these for sure. For sure.
I should have made that clear.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Enid's 18. She's she's like not even in college yet.
Right.
And yet I only collect quality materials. This is not quality.
Seymour, this has an enlarged center hole, and it has a very fine, spine crack in it. You know what that means, Seymour. I can't buy this.
Okay, well, I guess if you don't want it.
And then one of the best lines of the movie, Enid comes over and says, "What's all this talk about enlarged holes and tight cracks?"
That's a good line, but my God, the cut of Enid, like, I know where we should hang out tonight, and just Becca miserable on the couch.
Yes, let's please talk about this quote-unquote party scene.
This, like, God loves Seymour, but this is the worst party I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, this is worse than, like, a film where they shot the party bad and there are no extras.
But to be fair, Seymour does say to Enid, like, hey, you should have told me you were coming ahead of time, because I would have told you it's not a real, like, party. In quotes, right? He does admit that. Oh, he knows what this is.
Oh, I mean, everyone knows how lame this is, but
right.
But that doesn't make it not lame.
Including Enid. Enid knew exactly what it would be like, and I think she just kind of wanted to torture Becca.
I think she thought it would be funny.
Yeah, no, but I do want to ask you about this because your personal feelings about cringiness in movies, I do want to touch on. Yeah, tell me about that. And then tell me about what it was like for you, a person that just avoids cringe at all costs, if you can.
Yeah.
What was it like for you, Jesse, watching this particular scene?
This movie, I love this movie. It's so good, and I'm laughing so hard, and yet I have to pinch my arm every 20 seconds to stop myself from turning off this movie. I hate cringe. I can't stand people being uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with people being uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
But this movie is so good.
Yeah. And just the way that guy, I mean, we'll just start with the dialogue. I mean, everything everyone says, one guy, I think it starts with one guy saying like, "Oh, I don't understand." Like, something about like a CD versus vinyl records or something. And then one guy is like, "Oh, well, of course a CD can sound as good as vinyl records. Do you have an equalizer?" They start talking about this like audiophile jargon. Yeah. And then they kind of walk out of frame, and then it's, Seymour trying to sell this record to this guy, but it has these tiny imperfections, so we can't buy it.
Oh my God.
And then of course, the camera, or I have those reversed, I think. When those two are talking about the audio equipment, then the camera, they pass the frame, and then the camera kind of lowers down and then shows Enid and Becca on the couch at this place, dressed just really nicely, looking all cute.
And I'm just like
perfect.
I'm just
reveal.
Screaming no alone at this TV. Just no! Stop it!
Yeah, and that's, I'm sure that's exactly how Becca felt inside.
Yeah, no, that was me the whole movie, just screaming, "No, you didn't! Stop it!" Oh my God!
My eyes!
Yeah, we're glad I didn't see this in a theater.
My eyes! Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to see this in a theater for the same reason you wouldn't. Like, I just turning my head like every 5 minutes. and seeing, especially the second or third time when I know where all those cringy moments are, and seeing
Right.
everyone's reactions and like twisting and contorting their bodies in revulsion, and
Yeah.
oh, that would have been absolutely great. But I think that reveal of the two of them on the couch in that party, the first thing that Becca says
It's the best
is,
moment in the movie for me.
yeah, and yet the cringiest.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
somehow that
Yeah.
seems related, but we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, maybe in, yeah. I mean, yeah, the first thing that Becca says is, I totally hate you right there. Just great performances all around.
Yeah.
I mean, even the quote unquote creeps that make up this party,
I wouldn't even.
they're great.
Yeah.
The performances are
I
phenomenal.
mean, they're all wearing the same tan pants and brown
Corduroy
shirt.
and beige. In fact, this is a little trivia that I read. Apparently, according to Zwigoff, I think said this, the director. He said that Buscemi was so uncomfortable playing this role. As soon as the shoot day was over, as soon as they wrapped for the day, he threw those damn clothes off.
Yeah.
As soon as he possibly could.
I did hear it. I did read that, but I wonder, knowing how films work, isn't that what everyone does? They're like, we're done shooting. Change out of your costume.
Yes, of course. But I think, yeah, of course. But I think
he probably Looney Tunes style Roadrunner just sprinted to the trailer.
Right. Yeah, there's a difference between, oh, the day's over. I'm going to unwind now. Maybe I'll just unbutton the shirt and, relax for a while. Versus, get this fucking thing off of me right now.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like it was very much the latter.
Yeah.
For Steve Buscemi. In a great performance.
Yeah.
Nuanced. The tone of the voice. The rhythm. He really knew what he was doing. He knew the character. As uncomfortable as he was. And it's interesting you were cringed out, because can you imagine how this guy was playing the damn character?
Yeah. I mean, but that's like the job of acting, is to like feel what the characters are feeling. So he probably had to live in that uncomfortability 8 hours a day for like 6 weeks.
Yeah. And I'm sure that definitely helped with the world has just, completely chewed me up and spit me out kind of a thing.
Yeah, and it's about to get worse.
It's about to get so much worse.
Well, better for a second.
Well, he even says at the end of the movie in the therapy scene, he's like, I think I'm doing a lot better since my life completely fell apart.
Dude, when his mom says, what do you want for dinner? He's like, we can talk about it, not in front of my therapist.
In the car, yeah. We're going to get to the closing soon. But
oh, my God.
If we could just hit, Jesse, I think we could hit every single scene in this whole movie.
But I think the most important scene to hit, other than the dancing scene with Dana and Steve Buscemi, is when Enid kisses Seymour. Suddenly Seymour decides, okay, maybe she is kind of like cute.
Yes.
But like when he says like, oh no, when she says, do you know what I've been fantasizing? And you're just like, ugh.
Yes, exactly. Very cringy. However, well, I know that this kind of gets into territory that can be controversial, and it's sort of, it requires a very nuanced and a deeper sort of conversation.
For sure.
But that being said, there's this kind of implication that Enid is not just playing with Seymour's psychology. Now she's playing with his full feelings, right? And I'm not trying to say, oh, the girl led him on and all this kind of stuff, right? And that's what I was talking about. But she's not just, my take on Enid, part of it is that Enid still plays with dolls, right? But the dolls are real people in life. Yeah. It's like the adolescent teenager version of playing with dolls, right? These people are just as non-consequential to her in her life as a little piece of plastic that she can dress up and, pretend that they're doing as she pleases, right? And I think Seymour is one of those for her.
Yeah.
It's her prized...
But it goes too far, and she...
Yes, it goes too far. It goes too far, and here's my question for you. Do you think that she lost her virginity to him?
Oh shit! I wasn't expecting that. Sorry for cursing.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. You know, I was kind of one thing I was thinking about in that scene is like, I was thinking like she's young and he's Seymour, so who's worse at sex? That was my first thought watching that scene is who's worse.
Exactly.
And it's like, and I mean, even the way he, like, first of all, the kiss is kind of cute. You know, it's not too cringy.
Right.
And then the freaking toy just back and forth in the foreground. Yes. But, like, even the way he's holding her and the way she's lying there, it's like it's like they shouldn't have done that. It's like a little uncomfortable.
Yes.
And it's not like, yeah.
And, you know, she's of age, I suppose. I think it's implied that she's
like,
18.
Yeah, like legally, you know, it is what it is. But like in terms of like how we feel about it, it's not good.
It's not good. But what I really like,
and it's almost like we want. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
It's almost like we wanted her to say no, not him. Like it's almost like it's like because we knew that she had been like everything. Like I know what you're saying. We don't want to blame her, but like. We almost want her to like put the kibosh on it, but she's stoking the flames too. And he's like, and it's so complex because like I don't think she's doing anything wrong, and I don't like me personally. I don't think he's doing anything wrong. Like
me too. Mm-hmm. No, he's just going with the signals.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, he says that she's a beautiful girl, and he not in a creepy way at that. He does tell her early in the movie. She prods him at some point, right?
Yeah.
Saying like, "Oh, why don't you date like her? Or why don't you know? It wouldn't be funny if we dated." Or she says something like that. And he says, and he looks at her. He's like, "You know, I wouldn't even imagine myself with any of these people, let alone you." He's like, "You're young and you're pretty," and he's like, "That's not right." So he says that, but the point is, like you said, she brings him there. She kind of gets rid of Dana, right? Or well,
they're still together at this point.
Yeah, you're right. That's after. But she clearly has like some sort of animus toward Dana. She's jealous of her.
Yeah, she's jealous. But even Seymour doesn't like her that much. Like there's that scene where they're dancing. Or when he's like making that dessert at his place. I forget whose place they're at. It's probably her place because it looks different.
I think it's hers.
Yeah. Where they have this nice dinner and it's very formal and like, and then she starts dancing and she's like, hey, why don't you dance with me? I do actually like you. And he's not interested. And at first we think, oh my God, he's so awkward. He can't even like, you know, like read the signals that she's interested. And then I realized, oh, he's not interested.
Yeah.
He just goes along with it because Enid tells him to.
Right. It's not what he actually wants.
Yeah. I mean, the jeans that she buys him fit perfectly, but they're not for him.
Yes. And
they're like
dead on.
They're like usually they're like he's wearing a little baggier jeans, but they fit nicely, but they're this weird blue that don't go with his shirt even.
Right. Exactly. And we're so used to that just sort of color palette. So him being in that environment.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, it's
generally.
like brown and green in there, if I can remember right.
Yeah, and the green is like, if there is a green, it's like an avocado. It's like a dreary sort of like version of green.
Yeah, exactly.
Olive green.
It's not a bright green.
Right, exactly.
Olive is good, yeah.
So, yeah, that was very, like you said, it's very complex, this dynamic that happens. This where it goes too far, they make a mistake. And she learns from it. But back to my original question.
Yeah.
Does she lose her virginity to him? Because I think that could explain why she doesn't know to say no. You could say, oh, she's just very immature still. But it's implied that maybe she doesn't have anything to compare it to say, oh, we shouldn't do this.
Yeah. I think it's more that than she should say no. It's not that. It's that she doesn't know what she's looking for.
Yeah, there's an innocence to it.
Yeah, there's this whole thing about how it feels like she's like, is this what it's like? This tension, and there's and it shouldn't be tension. There's the sparks and tension. They're kind of similar, but they're not the same.
Right.
And I think, I mean, no matter who it is, you're gonna learn at some point the difference.
Yeah.
So whether it's Seymour or the guy that she said she lost her virginity to before, not that she said it was a specific person, but if it was before,
Right.
If it's that guy or someone else, it's going to happen where she's going to go, oh, I should or shouldn't do this.
Right.
And it should or shouldn't, not in a way of long-term, what do I want? And not in a good, bad, moral way.
Yeah. It's an experience-based decision.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have experience.
Yeah.
Or at least enough of it.
Yeah, and in that sense, maybe Seymour really should have stopped.
Right.
Even after that, because I mean, all along the way he should stop. And when she kisses him, he really should stop at that point.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
But at that point, he thinks that she actually is in love with him. Right? So it's so complicated, and it feels very real for that reason, because I think that the movie leads toward this moment beautifully. And I say beautifully because, I mean, listen, everyone out there, we all have uncomfortable, difficult, struggling moments, right?
Right.
We have questionable moments in our life, all of us. And I'm sure that if we shot that moment in each of our lives, right, and made it a scene in a movie, we would all be cringing watching this.
Yeah.
Right? But then there's a context to when these things happen to us. Right? There's a lead in toward that moment. It's led toward from experience. It's led toward with other sort of failings, maybe miseducation, other gaffes that combine in order to lead us to this place. And the point is that we're all human, and we all have that in us, that inner voice that's going to tell us to do the wrong thing, or we go by instinct, or we just have a moment that completely escapes us as to why we've done this, even in the face of good reason not to. And Eden didn't even necessarily have that in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? One might even say that Seymour didn't even have that in this moment. But the point is, this movie, I think, does a great job to show these two characters' lives and all of the misguidings, right? And all of the misfires of their lives, and how they try to accomplish a goal but don't get it, and how their emotions play a role in everything that happens, and their self-control wouldn't be there at this moment, right? He gives us everything that we need from both characters.
Yeah.
So to me, it feels, even though it's in a sense immoral, definitely impractical, right, and all the rest, it feels still very human and honest and real to me.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments. And hey, everyone has them.
Yeah.
That's why it speaks so much to me.
And now a message from our sponsor.
And now a message from our sponsor, Planned Parenthood.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Yeah. Get it while you can.
Speaking of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. Maxine and Bob Bellabet. No, what?
No, I was thinking of the coat hanger sculpture.
Oh, yeah.
Just to touch on these art classes. What is it? We already talked about, this sort of inner meta meaning, this message that reverberates through a lot of these moments in the film about creating higher art, higher meaning in your own life, choosing things for the right reasons. I think Roberta puts it in these terms where she says, you need to create art that deals with spiritual, political, and so on issues and has something to say about the world, instead of just these sort of whimsical, for fun, light-spirited entertainment things that these characters are doing. How does that apply to Enid, and what does she learn? How do we see her learn that through these art classes?
Okay, so I have a thought on this.
Okay.
So she keeps talking about this higher level of art. Oh, you must have a problem with your father. Yes, that is a very important subject to you. And yet, She tells Enid about the scholarship. Even though she talks about all this higher art and what it means from other people, Enid is capturing people in her drawings. And I think the teacher is resentful of her. And that's why she doesn't bring her up that often. But when she does, it's meaningful.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating from a, it's not quite abuse, but it does have that pattern of withholding until you give someone what they're looking for, and it's manipulative, if not on purpose. But I love the moment where I know we're jumping around a bit, but where Seymour's in the hospital, and because he's seen the drawing she drew of him, and that was when she thought of him as a sad sack, and he can see that and he can feel that immediately. Just from the picture. Becca doesn't need to explain all the details. He knows that's what she thinks of him, and he's been a fool this whole time for thinking anything else.
Yeah.
Then he sees the rest of the pictures.
Right.
And he sees what she sees in him. And it's sweet. And it's kind.
Right.
And that's what Becca has. And that's what Becca has. No, that's what Enid has, and that's what the teacher sees. And that's how she grows over the course of the film. And her judgment comes through. And then in the end, she screws it all up.
Or she doesn't show up
to
support her work.
Well,
at the art show.
No, well, that's not how she screws it up. She screws it up by which picture she wants to be shown.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see it that way. Because, it wasn't her idea.
Oh, no?
Right, you're right. It wasn't her idea to do. She kind of took. Took Seymour's idea.
No. She took the thing from Seymour.
Yeah,
but it's like self-sabotage to use that, right? She thought it was funny because it was sabotage until she realized it actually mattered that she was.
Interesting. I saw it as. Do you remember Roberta, that art teacher?
Yeah.
She was looking desperately for Enid at the art show, where Enid was MIA. Right. She wasn't there. She desperately needed Enid to be there
to explain it.
Yeah, she needed to be there to protect the work and explain herself in order to prevent it from being censored and taken off the wall.
Yeah,
I get the sense that if she, I don't even need a sense. If Enid had done that and explained herself to protect her found art or whatever,
right,
then it wouldn't have been as much of a fiasco, I feel like, or it wouldn't have been taken as this sort of
I don't know.
It would have been taken as this offensive thing as much.
I don't think you can explain that away.
Well, here's the thing. If that didn't happen the way that it went down, if she was there to explain, then it wouldn't have been written about in such a way in the article.
No, I understand.
And the article is what makes them pull her scholarship, and the article is also what makes Seymour get fired from his job.
Of course. So. No, I understand, but I just don't think that her being there to explain it would have done anything. That's my point.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not.
I think it's a real lack of judgment, and that's not to. I mean, she's young, but I think it was self-sabotage to do something so bold and not have anything to say personally about it. That was her least personal thing.
Right, but that's the thing.
So there's
if
no
explanation. But you're saying
saying
if she was there, she wouldn't have even been able to explain it.
Exactly, because she doesn't care about it.
Right.
Because it's not art it's not her art. It was rebellion from her, and it was self-sabotage.
Right.
So I don't think she could have explained it away because it wasn't her art.
Yeah, that's true.
She thought it was funny and she thought it was subversive, and it was like, oh my God, what if this actually happened? But she didn't. But it's like edgy. It's being edgy for edgy's sake, not having a point of view and not saying something with.
I think you're right. That's probably the overarching reason that they were intending, and that's absolutely. But before, what you were saying about Enid being kind in a way.
No, Seymour.
Well, you said Enid was sweet.
No. I was saying that Enid's pictures of Seymour captured him as sweet and kind.
Right. But I want to connect that to at the beginning, right after the graduation, the prom or dance party scene that we were alluding to. Do you remember that there's I wrote his name down here somewhere, but I can't find it. Do you remember that there was a guy when they start talking about well, we won't have to see these losers and whatever stupid faces anymore.
Yeah.
But do you remember that Enid is the one that says, "Oh, but look at what's his name over there. We're actually never going to see him again. Take a moment to think about that."
Yeah.
And Becca's just like, "Good." So callous.
Oh my God.
So callous and cold. But Enid has this moment where she said, "No, that's actually totally depressing." Right? And of course, it's not about that like ridiculously Jack Russell Terrier energy, super happy cheerleader or whoever that person is, the actress. That keeps bothering them.
Right,
of course, it's
right.
not about her or about any of the other people that she's completely sick of. It's about the lonely, weirdo loser that apparently no one cares about. Right? And they cut to this heartbreaking coverage of him, of just eating the like cake or something and just kind of looking around and just like his eyebrows are raised and he just doesn't know if anyone will ever care about him, or he doesn't know if anyone even sees that he exists. Only Enid. He doesn't even know that. He doesn't even see her. They're giving us from the very beginning that Enid has this propensity to be sweet and sympathetic toward these people. And I think the reason is because she knows that she's one of them. She just can't.
Yeah.
She can't see it reflexively. She can't admit it. She doesn't want to. She wants to feel like there's something that she's above.
Yeah. That's why she's so judgmental. That's why all the people she's insulting are the Satanists and the weird music dorks.
Right.
Because she's a weird music dork, Satanist, post-bohemian loser.
Yeah, exactly. She is bohemian. Remember pseudo-bohemian?
Yeah, exactly.
He's apparently not bohemian enough.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's going to be different, but I can imagine her at one of these parties talking about Nirvana and how this vinyl new pressing isn't as good as the original pressing from the 90s. It's like, they're just doing it to sell it to us. It's not a real one.
And listen, you and I and a lot of other people in our circle are like that with physical media.
Absolutely not. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, fine, I'll speak for myself. I am like that. And we talk about this stuff all the time, right? I mean, like, oh my God, I have the 2-disc special edition of this movie from 1977, and it has the feature commentary. It's unbelievable. Sometimes I do see myself in these people, but the point is...
Yeah, slow down.
The point is that we have the passion for this thing. We don't give half of a shit if anyone says anything about it. If someone
she does.
Right, exactly. If someone calls me a pseudo-bohemian, monstrous loser, creep, whatever, I'll just be like, all right.
I mean, like, yeah, but
yeah, and
yeah, like you're just describing me. You're just caking it in insult.
Make your point, woman. Why don't you?
Yeah.
Where's the predicate? I mean,
yeah. What are you saying about that?
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly. I know exactly what I am. If you're gonna make fun of me, make fun of me.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's a hole. There's a black hole in Enid somewhere, and she needs to fill it with something. And I think she is some sort of an artist, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
different.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Is that she wants to draw, but she doesn't have the
right.
Yeah.
And this brings me back
the passion to commit.
Right. And the drawing.
Yeah.
This film, Ghost World from 2001.
Yes.
This film is very much, I think even admittedly so, by Daniel Close, who wrote that graphic novel. It's semi-autobiographical in the sense that he didn't used to be a girl.
Right.
But he injected a lot of his own experience as a teenager that he remembered quite clearly.
Yeah.
He was one of these people that she refers to as these weirdos and so on.
Right.
He's one of them, and he remembers exactly what it was like coming of age with other people at that time. And so he put a lot of his own personal experience in there through the eyes of this character, Enid. So there's a lot here about, hey, this is what it was like being who eventually would be a comic, me, Daniel Close. This is what it was like in my teenager years when I didn't know I'd be able to do this professionally, but I knew I was some sort of an artist.
Yeah, and it takes some gall to steal from Scott Pilgrim.
To steal from Scott Pilgrim,
that's what I said.
Which came out 10 years later.
Correct.
How did it? Just in that way?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just so cool. But I do like that when people create material that's semi-autobiographical, and you create this character that is able to explain things in their own experience better than you can even for yours. Right? It's a place that you can put everything that you've sort of wanted to express about what it is to be who you are and to do what you do professionally, especially when you feel like you were born for it.
Yeah.
Right? There's a sense that Enid just can't be anything else and shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's who she is.
And she still hasn't admitted it yet to herself that that's what she wants. She's like,
Right.
oh, I want to be on a bus to nowhere. No, she wants to be somewhere. She just hasn't said it yet.
Yes, exactly. And that's the place.
And the thing is, about speaking of logline, which we weren't.
From 3 hours ago.
Yeah, exactly. but the logline is like, if you could encompass everything the writer and director wanted to in the story into a logline, they wouldn't make the movie.
Yeah.
The movie is everything. The logline gets you in the door. And I feel like they're saying so much, and it's so specific to this person that it's just special to see the fact that Enid just does not grow. maybe a little towards the end, but
right. It's very fun and different to see everyone but your protagonist grow.
Yeah.
To see the world kind of sculpt itself around her, where she is kind of like the eye of the storm, right? Everything is kind of swirling around her, and it takes that very, very heavy gravitational pull, the heaviest possible pull, to get her to cross, to again put one foot in front of the other, to get her to cross that threshold into the beginning moment of the rest of her life. And that pull comes in the form of
the bus.
It comes in the form of shame, really. Total, utter isolation, right?
Yeah.
Where she becomes almost every single one of these insults at the same time. And then it finally gets her through the door. So let's talk, if we could, Jesse, about this closing sequence and final image. I'm going to summarize it a little bit here. First, in the hospital, Enid visits Seymour, and they have this nice moment, like you said, sweet. It's this closure for them somehow. It's kind of like apologizing without apologizing, and they're on their merry ways. Then Enid meets with Rebecca on that bench right after that hospital, and they sit next to each other, and we get the sense that even from just the way that their body language is, that Rebecca's not going to see Enid again, at least for a long time. They hold hands. They kind of let go of each other's hands very dramatically. She kind of wishes Enid good luck, and she says, what are you going to do? Enid says, I don't know. Right? So there's that moment on the bench. Rebecca leaves, and Enid looks like Melvin on that bench alone, even just in that moment. Then, next, Enid is walking by, and she's comforted by seeing Melvin, this character that we're going to talk more about soon, sitting at that bus stop still. He's still there. Reaction shot on Enid. She smiles a bit. Okay? But the bus pulls up and picks him up and leaves. Leaves kind of like Rebecca did. Enid is now alone, even from Melvin. Okay? Then, Enid walks across the screen, dressed in a bright red outfit. It's kind of reminiscent of like the 60s. She almost looks like a flight attendant, but it's her own kind of thing. And like a 60s style round shaped travel bag. And then we also cross-cut in there. Seymour is seeing a therapist, and he's trying to kind of put his life together with her. Back to Enid. She sits down at the bus stop bench, dressed in this red outfit. Seymour is picked up by his mother from the therapist, like he's a child, basically. Then they go out the door, and we cut back to Enid again. The same bus comes to pick up Enid that picked up Melvin. It's the same exact bus, right? Then Enid is the only passenger on this bus. And the final image is Enid. We can see her sitting there at the back of the bus, all alone, crossing a bridge into God knows where, at night, no one else on the road, and then a film dissolve at the very end that says the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are your immediate thoughts about this, Jesse?
So this film was shot in Los Angeles. And as an Angelino myself growing up here, the only place I recognize is the bus stop at the end of the movie. Because as she's walking up to the bus stop, there's a sign that says Mario's Peruvian, and it's such a good restaurant.
Still there?
Yeah, no, that's basically Vine and Melrose.
Wow. Speaking of Ghost World.
Yeah, exactly. So it's still there to this day, and I haven't been in a long time, but we went when I was a kid. Lomo saltado, anyway, is the dish, the best one. And if you know our buses in Los Angeles, they don't look like that. That looks like a New York bus. That looks like a Greyhound from city to city. We don't have those. You know, ours are orange and low, and there's no undercarriage where you put your stuff. It's just local public transportation. This is like out of another world. This is like when I would take a bus from New York to DC to visit family. Like, it's almost like she's going to another world, another place. It's out of time, and maybe 2001 was different, and I might be reading too much into this, but it's almost like the bridge is not from Los Angeles. That bridge looks nothing like any of the architecture here, and maybe it is here, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, and of course Melvin too.
Yeah,
same bus as Melvin. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it is very. It's very interesting. I'd like to start by just talking about Melvin in general, because I feel like that's going to sort of catapult us into our final takeaways of this image. Melvin, to me, is the lowest form of human being in the eyes of Enid, right? And I think that's why she goes to see him at the very end. Becky is gone, right?
Yeah.
Out of her life, let's say.
For now.
Right. She knows she needs to... Her father, gone, pretty much, because now has Maxine. Yeah? Josh, probably doing something else, moving away, going to college, gone. Everyone else, going to college, gone. So she doesn't even have that job anymore. She quits that computer job. She is alone in the universe right now. Her last refuge is to go to that bus stop and make sure that the lowest form of human being is still sitting there waiting for something that doesn't exist, a completely irrational character.
Just so she can feel better.
Exactly. That's the purpose of the character for Enid. That's the purpose of him in her life. Mm-hmm. It's to remind her that she's better and she doesn't need to do anything, right? And then she doesn't even remember his name. I don't know if you caught that, but
no.
She said the first time they see him, "Oh, what's your name?" "Melvin." "Oh, hi, Melvin. You know this isn't a bus stop, right?" "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, but it's not a bus stop." "Oh, we'll see," or whatever he says after that. But he assures her that she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I love that every moment that is with Melvin here can be seen as basically a metaphor for the entire point of the movie, right? And the title. I mean, Ghost World. In a sense, there are millions of these Melvins, right? Walking around. We're all, in a sense, like Melvin in that we're waiting for something to happen, right? We have these hopes, we have these dreams, and they're constantly being crashed and crushed, smashed down by other people.
Yeah.
Right? With their smug attitudes and
their post-bohemian loser energy.
Exactly. And
pseudo.
Right. The only person that doesn't acknowledge that she kind of is Melvin or that she's above him is Enid.
Yeah.
In this life, say, right? So and so I love that she does get his name wrong. She says, "Oh, look, it's Alan," or whatever. It's not the name, but whatever she says later on.
Right.
And it's not him, and he doesn't react. He just kind of keeps staring forward, focused on his one goal, the one pathetic goal, right, that she sees that he has. And so then she can't even care enough about him to remember his name. That's how I know she sees him as this sort of ultimate loser. And then at the end, her last refuge, cut back to here, where she's lost everything, she goes back and stares across the street. No one else is seeing him, and there's no one else around him. It's just the two of them now. She's thinking, at least, or this is the credit to the good filmmaking here, where I can say that I know that he's thinking, or she's thinking, at least I'm not Melvin.
Yeah.
Or Alan, whatever the hell she thinks his name is.
And then Melvin gets exactly what she wants.
And then Melvin gets exactly what he wants.
Which is also what she wants.
Which is also what she wants. But I don't even think she realizes that yet.
Yeah.
Right? It still needs to percolate. But that bus comes. And whether that bus, she's really seeing that bus, or she's imagining it, or it's just the magic of the story, I don't care.
Yeah.
Either way, it's awesome. I think it's one of the best endings to a comedy I've ever seen because it underscores exactly what has to happen to this character. She has to hit that bottom. She has to become the thing that she makes fun of the whole damn time of the movie, right?
She has to become Melvin.
Yeah, it's that existential moment when you switch places with another person that you looked down upon and you don't know their experience, right? And when that happens, it triggers this existential gravity that I was trying to talk about before that ends up being the propulsion that she needs to finally be Melvin, to get herself somewhere, you know? Yeah. And I love that the red rhymes with the red in the beginning.
Yeah, and then the song after the end.
Yes. We've got bookends here.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And that actual final image of the bus disappearing.
Of the bus, yeah.
And you can clearly see her, her
it's so iconic.
shape, her silhouette on that bus. And it just feels so ghostly. It almost reminds me of those Hey Arnold episodes that we grew up with these like urban myths in these, urban environments. And,
of like Brooklyn or something.
Yeah, whatever it was. Like Monkey Man and like these ghosts and these things that these children kind of see.
Yeah.
And really what all those things are they're just like their stunted growth, or they're kind of like these childlike figures of people, of how these people want to be when they grow up, right?
Yeah, it's what fascinates them, what excites them, what scares them.
Exactly. And that's Ghost World, man. What did you think of the therapist at the end for Seymour? Why is this the end for him that we're seeing?
Because it's like, I mean, first of all, it's probably where he should have been for a while. Mm-hmm. He probably should, like, if he's in a place where he's not happy and he doesn't understand what's going on and what he wants, it's probably a good idea to see a therapist. That's not medical advice. That's just in a personal opinion. But he has a lot to reckon with. And it is sad. I mean, his mom is like, is he done yet? It's
right.
Sad.
Yeah. And then I do think that there's this implication here that he is stunted.
Yeah.
Still, right? When when his mother comes in and says, like you said a lot earlier,
Is he done yet?
well, about the lunch.
Oh, yeah.
The
What are we
dinner.
having for dinner?
Right. And he says, "Oh, I don't know." The fact that she's even asking him that is he looks like a child, his posture. He sounds like a child with his tone, right? His tenor, the way he walks out of the room.
We'll talk about it in the car, Mom.
Yes.
Ugh.
He's sort of perpetually caught in his own ghost world between, not making the right choices, childlike behavior, and adulthood, growing up, all that kind of stuff. So I think that this, although he does say that, hey, things are improving since his life was completely destroyed.
Yeah.
I get the sense, at least, that he's learning, though. He definitely learned here by being active with people and getting out there and making some mistakes. I kind of am getting this feeling that he learned a lot more just through Enid than he had maybe for decades by not associating at all with the world, being completely 100% self-deprecating, right, and just not even participating.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it's clear that Enid brought him out of his shell, even if he was the same person.
Yeah.
There's something genuine about him, and he kept that genuineness, but he shared it with more people.
Yeah.
Even talking to Rebecca, going over to Becky's place. Well, I mean, it's their shared place, but going over to talk to Becky and say, like, "Yo, Becca, where is she? I'm waiting for her. I'm not leaving. I need to talk to her."
Right.
It is a change in him, while still being the core of himself.
Right. And again, that's so hard to do, to make a character arc like that in a movie ever so slightly, but we can still garner a lot of stuff from it, right? We can learn a lot about life. We can be so reflective about our own lives through this person when, like you said, he hasn't learned that much, just a little bit. But I think it speaks to why this movie particularly is so unique. It's because it feels so real. It feels so real and genuine.
Yeah.
It deals with these questions about life and about questions with people and their personalities and why they do what they do. And it doesn't have a written feeling to it. It just has let's just open the book of life and watch a couple people and learn some things from them. Yeah. And let's have a good hearty laugh while we're doing the whole thing.
And it's just like a bit askew.
Yes.
It's just enough that we can latch onto more meaning.
Yes, exactly. And there is so much meaning. And I think we've touched on a bunch of it. But listen, people, I think that the meaning in this movie, while we can dig up a lot of good stuff like Jesse and I did here concretely, I think this movie is such an experience. And it forces you to be so meditative, I think, about your own experience at this time in life. And a lot of the meaning, I believe, in this movie is very spiritual in a sense, right? It's about art, whatever the hell that is. Kind of like I was talking about with the Oscars episode. What even is art? What makes it even meaningful at all, right? Why is it there for us? Why do we create it? Where does it come from? It speaks to these comic artists that pull these incredible drawings and illustrations out of their souls and put it onto a page, and they make people laugh. They make people feel and cry and do all these things. And American Splendor is another film that I would highly recommend. Anyone that is listening to this enjoyed this content, especially enjoyed Ghost World, and really likes this time period, these types of characters, this sense of humor. American Splendor is absolutely a phenomenal movie, and that one's about Harvey Pekar. I couldn't recommend that enough to you. And Robert Crumb, who was very good friends with Zwigoff.
Didn't he make a document?
Yes. Crumb was his previous film, Zwigoff's, which was a documentary about cartoonist Robert Crumb, who made Fritz the Cat and other things. Very, very interesting guy. And my goodness, what a movie that is. Insane movie with a dysfunctional family that will make you laugh and really make you reflect, just like the way we did here. But Robert Crumb, that cartoonist, is a really good friend of Zwigoff. I think Robert Crumb actually did some art in this movie. There's a bunch of art that's scattered in this movie, Ghost World. That's by Daniel Clowes. That's by Crumb. And Crumb also appears in American Splendor. He was good friends with Harvey Pekar. So this is like a club of like really interesting, eccentric, indescribable artists that just seem to sort of, who knows how they spawned from the earth to give us this wild, eccentric, beautiful art, but they did. And here we are, and we're having a great time talking about it, and it's making us think. And thank you, Terry Zwigoff, for giving us this really fascinating film adaptation. And, of course, Daniel Clowes as well, who was there to write the screenplay with him.
And we've talked a lot, just briefly, we've talked a lot about, all the different people involved. I constantly called the dad Bob Balaban and nothing else. But I just want to acknowledge Thora Birch because, like, oh my God, what a performance. We talked about Scarlett Johansson and Steve Buscemi, but, like, wow. She was amazing. The performance of her
career, in my opinion.
And I want to see more.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Christina Ricci was originally supposed to play the role. And I think she had a scheduling conflict at the time, and they tapped Thora, or she sent them an audition tape or something, and there she was. But man, Jesse, can you imagine anyone else in this role?
I mean, I can't. Like with Christina Ricci, she's great, and she's got a specific thing, and it's almost this, but it's not this. Yeah. It's like, it's like Wednesday's so different, but it's so similar. It's like it's got that same sort of dry energy, but it's but there's a soft center to this that's a little and I'm sure actually she could have done a good job, but Thora Birch just,
she worked so hard to create this person.
It's so good.
She gained 20 pounds for the role.
Oh, yeah.
She just, you can tell that she put so much love and heart into this role. It's almost as if she knew just how authentic this character and this story was and was going to be on film. And she showed up in every way an actor possibly could, and then some. She lifts this movie to that spiritual realm of experience that when you're watching it.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
When you think about iconography of different movies, you get images and props and things. And the iconography of this movie, the thing that stands out and stands the test of time is Thora Birch.
Yes. Yeah. It's incredible. It's the kind of thing that we filmmakers hope at even a minimal level to achieve.
Yeah.
Right? Something like this. And you have a team of people that are just incredible coming together for this thing. And people that are pouring their hearts into it. It's very close to them. They know what they're doing. Zwigoff had made several... This is his first narrative film. And then he did Bad Santa after this, which was fascinating. But but all these people coming together, and then you have this leading character, this lead actress, that is the star at the top of this wonderful Christmas tree of characters that shines so brightly so many years later for us to enjoy and reflect on, and it's just an eternal part of the cinematic soul of our time. I really, really love this movie, and you're right, Thora Birch, thank you for that. My question for all you listeners out there at the end of this episode is, do you feel like you are Enid, or someone you know is more Enid than you are, and why? So I would really like to thank our amazing guest today, Jesse Mendelsohn. Thank you again so much for coming on the podcast and talking this through. I hope the listeners too can as well. But your passion for movies in general, but this movie and your ideas here, it's so alive when I'm talking to you about this, So I really would like to thank you very much. And
Thanks, Andrew, for bringing me on. This is so fun. I love this movie, and I'm just jumping at joy to talk about this one in particular.
Good. My pleasure, really. And I hope we can do it again. We want to have you on again and talk about more movies in the future. And before we go, I'd love for you to tell our listeners here where they can find your work.
Yeah, so right now, what I'd like to share is a YouTube channel, Epic Movie Moments, just where you can find different kinds of commentary on films. And there'll be more to come there.
Yeah, and I've seen a bunch of these, and I'm fans of them. And they're very interesting.
They're fun little right now.
They are. Epic Movie Moments on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is really amazing what someone can do, and particularly what Jesse is doing with these shorts. Such a small amount of time. You can just tell from this podcast that Jesse's very passionate about moments, and we always talk about this when we're talking off the air, me and Jesse, about moments in movies that are knit together to make the movie, but it's moments that are so difficult to capture and describe and explain why they are meritorious and why they work and why they really do what they're setting out to do. And Jesse is becoming a master of identifying that. So take a look and a listen to his channel, again, Epic Movie Moments, and see what he's coming out with next.
Thank you, Andrew.
And thank you to the listeners for making this podcast possible and supporting us. Please leave a review and a rating and comment on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That would really help us in the algorithm, and I would really appreciate it. If you have any questions for me, the specific podcast email is speakingcinemapodcast@gmail.com. See you guys on the next episode.